Record. Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to go over the accounts receivable module. I'll touch a little bit on how to customize a form. Very simple, like putting a logo on the billing form or something like that. And we'll just get started. We do have this PowerPoint. So under the meetings and trainings page on our main wiki page, if you go to that meeting, and I'm just going to jump here instead of scrolling. So December 13th, here's the PowerPoint. And although that's out there and it's very detailed, I will be going through that order essentially, but I'll be doing it in the live application. And then we'll touch on some of the rules as well. So let's get into the application. The accounts receivable module is a separate module in USAS that allows the school to track their invoices or billings, track their payments, and manage the monies that is owed to them. And this is the menu options once the accounts receivable module is enabled. So in order to see this, you have to go under Systems module and install that accounts receivable module. That will put the menu options onto the USAS row up there, but standard users will still not have access to the menu options without having more AR assigned roles. So actually I have this in the PowerPoint. So with the AR roles are these, and I know what I was going to do. I was going to go to the wiki, but those are the three accounts receivable roles that you need before the menu options are available for the USAS users to use. So in the documentation, you can see their permissions here for the AR roles, and that's just under the chapter of roles. So in addition, like I said, in addition to your USAS standard manager role, you're going to need these in addition. So my application, I am like the admin user, so I'm going to be able to show you everything. Again, this is the menu option of all the options, and we're going to go out of order just so that I could talk about these other components that are included on the billing, and then we'll go and create the billing. So we'll talk about like customers, ledger codes, and payment locations first. So, but let's view a billing first. So when you go to create, just so you have a visual before we talk about these components, this is the location code that we'll touch on. This is the location that we'll touch on, and then the customer. And that's where we're going to start with customers. And a customer is a person or business that you've provided goods and services to, and you want to bill or invoice them so that you're requesting payment for them. And this module is a separate tracking system for that. So under customers, there are two types. Actually, there's more than two types, but you create two types of customers that are used in this module. So one of them is if you have like a vendor under core that you use for purchase orders, like OASBO. So this is under core that I would use for purchase orders. If I want to use that same vendor in accounts receivable, I could just pull that information when I create that vendor customer. So, for instance, and I should have showed you this, but under core, there's a vendor for Ohio FFA. It's vendor 20. So, and we don't have it in AR. So under accounts receivable customer, I want to create a new vendor um customer. And I sorry, guess my mouse is a little jumpy. So when I create this, I can leave this vendor number blank if I want to use the same vendor number that is used under core vendors that are used for purchase orders. So I'm going to leave that blank. And I didn't show you this, but under the core, that was Ohio FFA vendor 20. So as long as it's active, you can go down here and choose it and save it. And now it's a vendor. You can even modify it, but now it's a vendor to be used on the accounts receivable side. Now, if I want to, the advantage of that is your accounts payable people are probably keeping these vendors up to date. Oh, shoot. Let me show you something first. That Ohio FFA says it's FFA Lane in Fairview, Ohio. And as I was saying, your accounts payable often gets those address changes. So as they change the vendor under core, it's going to automatically update your vendor under accounts receivable. So it was, where's my address? 123 FF Lane in Fairview, and I'm gonna instead put Main Street in Fayette and save it. So you want to make the changes under core for vendor customers in order for your vendor customers to be updated in um, accounts receivable. So there's the 123 Main Street in Fayette instead of Fairview. There is another type of customer that can be used when you don't necessarily have a vendor under core vendor that you're using for purchase orders, but a new vendor that entirely new. So under here, you can create just an accounts receivable customer. So on this, you're setting up a brand new customer just to be used in accounts receivable and nowhere else in the system. If you leave that blank, it'll default to the next vendor number available under the AR program, or you can assign your own. Let's think of a customer. I don't know. Oops. Landscaping company. Under the customer type, and this is where I kind of messed up at the beginning, there are two types that you create, but under the AR customer, when you're setting it up, you can also define the customer type as a customer, an employee, or a student. So actually, I'm just going to put make a employee. And that's just so that like on this grid, you can like filter and stuff and designate it. So again, you put your email, whatever it is, and your address, and you click save. And now you can use that vendor for in accounts receivable. And you notice here, there's some employees. You can set it up for students, maybe library fees. Maybe this application could be used for that. I'm just making up an example, but that's an example why a student might be in there. Customer and vendor. So those are the different types. Regarding customers under the rules, there are there's one mandatory rule, and I don't know if this is the default look of this rule grid or if I pulled it in these two into my grid. I could have checked marked um, the mandatory. So the mandatory, actually, I'm just going to leave those blank. And over here, since we were talking about customer, I'm going to, between percentage signs, I'm going to filter the grid with any rules that include customer. And you can see there are two mandatory rules, and in this application, I have it enabled. And what those are is um, you can't, I guess I could make this a little bit bigger. You'll get an error because you can't create or edit a billing that uses vendor customer without that location. When you set up a vendor under core vendors, you have to have that primary location for PO 1099 and something else. My mind went blank. And then the other rule is you can't delete a customer with existing transactions. So these aren't able to be changed, but I wanted to point them out. So any questions on customers? So next we're going to talk about ledger codes. Oops. A ledger code is used to define like a billing category. Examples here, you can see the transportation, cafeteria, rentals, high school, and this is just a demo site, so I'm just making them up. But by using these, it was one of the fields when you're creating a billing that you populate these with. And when you set these up, you can distinguish the days till due. So, and I'll refer back to this when we're creating a billing and using the location code of rentals and show you how the days till due will populate when you're creating a billing just by picking this ledger code. And then they can be used like on these ledger codes can be used like on the AR ledger query or reports as well. It's just a like a billing category. So let's create a new one. We'll just call it like library fees. Days till due. I'm going to give them a little longer and make it for, well, just for ease, I'm going to do 30. And so there's a new location code. So for the example that I was going to show you, if I look at a billing that's out there, oops, and view the billing, you can see the locations here that is chosen on this billing for rentals. And you can see when the date of the billing was October 1st. And by having that 30 days entered into the location configuration, basically, it's going to automatically populate to 30 days later, 1031. So there's that advantage of entering that if needed. Um, Another piece of a billing field or a field on a billing is a payment location. And this is essentially what you're putting on the billing of to where the customer is going to remit to your payment remit to address that you select on your billing. So I have three set up here. One's a separate one for rentals. You define the address and such. And when you create that billing, you choose that. So let me Again, we're going to create a billing after I go through these components. But just to show you. Um, I pulled the wrong one. So when you go to print it, your remit to is your payment location. Um, so back to the payment locations, you can see that you have the default payment location on as a column. You must have one default payment location specified, but you can have many other payment locations, just not as the default. But when you're creating the billing, you'll be able to choose which one by the drop down. So if there is no, well, there must be a default payment location. Never mind, I got mixed up in my notes. There is one rule that is also mandatory regarding payment locations. So again, I'm going to put payment locations or just payment in between percentage signs. And you can see that they're not all. One's a repayment for a transfer advance. But the one I'm talking about is the one mandatory rule where you cannot delete a default payment location. All right, so those are the components. So now let's go into billing. Well, actually, I was going to show you the other rules for billing. A billing is basically an invoice that you create at the district that lists the goods or services that you provided and the total of the invoice that you're requesting for payment. So I was going to show you what the billing rules are by putting billing in between the percentage signs. And there's one mandatory rule where you cannot create or edit a billing that uses a vendor customer that came from the core vendor without a location reference. And again, that is, let me pull up a vendor. What it's saying is you can't use a vendor customer without these defined down here. So that's a mandatory rule, as well as there's 3 optional rules. Um, and these have to do with the dates. The dates you can have, you can create a billing in the fiscal year, the current posting period, or the prior fiscal year. But you define it here on which one you're going to allow and get an error. So you'll want to look at those as well. But I'm not going to go in depth about those. But on the billing grid, there are several fields and several more that you can pull in. But let's just talk about the options. There's a create button, which we'll do that in just a moment. Normally we wouldn't see that, so we're going to ignore mass change. You can edit a billing. You can view a billing, and when you view a billing, you have the ability to clone the billing. From the billing grid, you can apply payments, and we'll go through this when we apply payment, but you can print. You can print in an XML format or PDF format. And again, when it's PDF, you have the default form, or you can have a custom form. This was when we were working with Classic, the import button, but you also have the ability to email billings. And we'll talk about this new feature on the billing grid, which involves when the users mass entering payments, they want to remain on this grid so they can just keep on clicking a new bill and applying the payment. But we'll show you that when we're applying payments. So let's create a billing and go through all the codes that we talked about. So this was the ledger codes that we set up. Remember, we set up the library fees. So let's choose that. The billing number is auto assigned. It's grayed out and the user cannot currently enter their own billing number. The date is going to default to the current date, but it can be updated to be in the current year, the prior year, or the next fiscal year, depending on those rules that I showed you and how the district is set up. The customer is, again, whether it's an AR customer or a vendor type customer, you got to be a customer in AR. So here's your customers via the drop down. Or you can start typing and it'll start populating. Or if you really don't know, I believe you can still use the percentage wildcards to start searching. So there's just some tips there, but which may help because in my drop down, I don't have that many vendors in this demo site. So library fees, student, we're going to pick Sally, the student. Location, I'm going to just pick the main office at the Cotton Schools. And with that library fees, remember we set up 30 days on the days till due, and you noticed it automatically populated it. I'll show you a moment about updating that field though. So if we want to do attention, and then these amounts are going to be updated. Even this email sent, if it's emailed, is going to be updated later upon save and upon emailing. So those are grayed out and can't be updated. The status is also showing there. But down here are your items where you add the items. So you can enter a service date, and I'm just going to pick the start of, the school year, fees, $25. And then you gotta, I'm not picking the correct account, but so don't think that's accurate because it's not. I'm just picking an account to demo it. So then you save. Now I had it dated today, Sally the student. Now if I go back in there and edit and say I really wanted it to be um, Monday, this due date's not going to automatically update. It's only on the first initial creation. So you see this didn't update, but the user can. So if you go upon the initial save, it'll populate the due date from your location code if entered. But if you go back and edit the initial billing and update the billing date, you're going to have to update the due date if needed. If there are no days listed on this ledger code, then it's going to just be blank for the users to decide whether they want to put a due date or not. It's left blank for the user input. All right, so let's save this. So we'll want to print. XML format is for other printing applications. The PDF, you have the default form. Let me show you what that shows. There's the default form. And then I customized it. Was I doing that one? It doesn't matter which one I print. The AR billing form. I'll show you in a moment how I created that and then um, stored it under report or created the form under report manager. And then once that is done, it shows as an option. And I believe I just put a logo on it. Yep. So similar. And I believe I took this page 1 of 1 off. Yeah. And maybe customized it. So there's an example of a customized billing. The PowerPoint did have a link to the creating forms for printing PDF transactions. This has been a little bit updated from the by using the USPS document. But you can see, and I'm talking about like below and how to do it, editing a field and such. But we do have customized template forms in Word that you can use. So the AR billing, if you go to that chapter and click on that, download it and open it, you see this computer language is what I call it. That is where, and I'm just going to show you the simple edit of I'm going to edit the header to add that logo. You would save it. And then in the application, after you're done making your form pretty, under report manager, create a form, you name it. Um, can't spell today with logo. I like to use tags because as you see on this grid, we have different tags in our database where some are for workflows, some are for 1099s, and then I like to designate the type of form. So if I'm just looking for all my forms, I can just sort that grid. And you can see, um, so anyway, let me finish this. So tags and then the entity type, and this is in the PowerPoint too, but the entity type is billing. So you would click that and then you would select your form that you downloaded. So we'll pretend we did that. And so then it's saved on the grid. And that is how it is used when you're printing a PDF. Um, and then choosing the default, or not the default, the PDF and other than the default. So that's why it shows up here. Any questions on that? On the billing grid still, you can also apply payments, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. And you can also email. The the email option allows the users to send the billings that has the customer email on and you can see the customer email on the customer grid. If you And if it's not on the grid, you can pull it in with the more button. Remember, these are draggable. So there you can see the Ohio FFA and such. So I can email any billings that have an email. And you can do that from the billing grid. So then once you email it, you can see that you can pull or have this column on your grid, email sent. You can filter to true or false, and you can see those have been emailed. Once it is emailed, you can also pull up the billing and view that it says email sent. It's check marked right on the billing. There is additional setup in order to email billings. So, and that's also in the PowerPoint, but under the modules, you're going to need the email notification services enabled. The accounts receivable, oh, that's already set up. And then once that's set up, the configuration, and you'll want to do the accounts receivable billing email setup. When you click on that, this is where you are going to enter your email, and you can have a carbon copy email, whatever the email is, and then you can put in a message for your email. So please see the attached billing. You choose again which form you want to choose. We'll just say the one with the logo and save it. So then that is going to be the message that's going to be going out on all billings. These are going to be from and the two from emails, and then the customer email is where it's going to. And again, if you're setting the district up, the application configuration has to be configured to enable the external notifications. So let's see. If I click on a billing, again, I was in the, I'm now under billing, and with that configuration set up, if I email it, what I configured is going to populate. This is the vendor customer email address for the Catholic school. Here's my message that I customized under configuration. And then once I click it, again, the grid will be updated where it says billing was emailed. The billing will be updated to where it says it was emailed. And you can enter additional addresses by separating them with a comma. However, that's only possible if you're selecting one billing to email. So when you select a few, well, that's the same customer. We'll do, I don't know if I have all these addresses entered, but if I click email, you see that I don't have options to update this. And it's because you're going to different vendors. So you can't add the customized to field, and that's what's missing when you select more than one. Once the user uh, clicked on send, then the users will receive a message indicating how many emails were successfully sent or how many failed. And if there were failed records, then this will include a message with the details of why it failed. So so this one shows that it was sent. That's what the billing is showing, just as an example. Okay, so payments. We talked about the components, the creating a billing. Now we received a payment for those billings. So under payments, and this is where the customer has submitted you monies at the district for the payment of those goods and services. There is one mandatory rule, and again, you can search for payment. I'll just do that and show you. It's good to see how this all intertwines, I think. And you could, because you have to keep in mind the rules of everything. So payment. Again, you can disregard the other USAS repayments for transfers and advances, but there is one mandatory rule where you can't create a receipt from a payment that already has a receipt. So just so you're aware of that. We'll talk about that in a moment about the receipts. So that's the rule. There are some options on posting payments against billings. So one of them is from the payment grid and then selecting, or I'm sorry, viewing. I got mixed up. One of the options is applying payment from the billing grid. So as you select this, you see that button populates. You click on that, and let me back up just a bit. If I'm going to continually to bill like the Catholic school, St. Mary's, office supplies and pickles and more, and I want to remain on the grid, that is when I stay on this grid. Normally, if this is unchecked and you're applying a payment, it's going to go to the payment grid. So by having this check marked, you're going to apply this payment, save it, and it's going to come back to this grid where I can pick another one. So another way, so you can do that. Enter your date, your check number. I'm sorry, this is the wrong, it was a paid. So an outstanding, apply payment, enter a check number. I'm going to leave it default to today's date. And I'm just going to, you can edit this if you need to and just put 900 instead of 1,000, or you can leave it and click save. So that's one way by using that button. Another way is when you're viewing the billing, the actual billing, you can apply it with this button. And again, it's the same fields, today's date, the check number, and then the amount of the payment. Um, the payment number is grayed out. It's going to be auto assigned when posted. A payment also must be created in an open period. You can you can apply a payment against a single billing or multiple billings. So let's go back to the billings. I can't remember what I meant by that statement though. Oh, when you're doing multiple billings, you're gonna have to have the same vendor. So that's what I meant in my notes. So once you have the payments posted against the outstanding billing, if you want to print a receipt for, we'll say for the Catholic school, I would check mark this and click on print receipt. Again, we have output formats of PDF or XML. The default form, I'm going to run it and show you because currently this is a bug where it defaults to this 2020 date. Everything else is all accurate. It has today's date, the amount applied. So advise your users to create that form. And this is easy because in the documentation, I gave you let me pull up this template form is right here. So all you would do again is download this, go back to your report manager and create that form, which I did, and it's right here. So when basically when you created it, these are the fields that I chosen, and then I selected that form that I downloaded without the date after I edited it. So the difference is now when I do that payment, I have that option with the receipt without that 2020 date. There is a JIRA issue. It looks the same. Oops. Sorry. I don't know what happened to my other payment, but remember the date was up here, and it does look the same. I just removed the date. Again, you can update these forms too. Any PDF and USAS you can update. So I did see another one in here with the logo. So, and again, that was saved under the report manager. So just let me show you the options of what you can do. And again, it looks the same, but with the logo. So that JIRA issue is USAS R5240 to remove that date. But until, I mean, it's as simple as going to that link and downloading and just updating the form. When you are doing that though, under the report manager and you're creating that form, let me pull that up again. The entity type is going to be payment. When we modified the PDF of the billing form, the entity type was billing. This is a payment receipt, so it would be payment. All right, so when you're doing payments, you also have the option of posting that payment under transaction receipts at the same time. So you can have a user just post payments in AR, but not create the receipt. So I'm going to show you. Earlier, I said these dates, or I mean, these roles were needed to see the menu options and utilize accounts receivable. But these roles don't automatically generate that receipt under the transactions. In order to do that, the permission needed on that user is USAS receipt create. The roles that include that permission are these two roles. So if the USAS requisition user is not requisition, USAS, uh, a lower user than these permissions, you're going to have to add this to them to be able to create a receipt. So for example, this AR secretary does not have that USAS receipt create permission. So she can post a payment and print that receipt for that payment, but it's not going to generate a receipt. It's not, she doesn't have the permission to do that. So with that permission, when I print that receipt, I'm looking for that generate. I'm sorry. When you're creating and I always like going to the billing, when you're creating the billing. So if I'm taking this outstanding bill and applying the payment, because I have permission with that USAS receipt create, this is automatically check marked for me. So upon saving this payment, it's going to generate the receipt. So before I created that payment of $900, and since I have that permission, it's going to be under transaction receipt. So there's my $900, and it says receipt generated for payment 1053. And if I open it, it just looks like a regular receipt with the detail where it came from. However, like I said, the secretary may post those payments, and maybe the treasurer takes those payments and posts them under the transaction receipts. That's totally up to the district. So what happens when the customer overpaid what is owed? So you can see on this billing, let's see. So this first one is good. It's in the credit status because their total bill was $1,000, but they paid 1,500. So they have a credit. So that's what a credit is when the customer overpays. And you can do two things with that. You can refund a credit, or you can apply the credit to another outstanding bill, which reduces the amount owed. However, when you're doing it that way and applying it to another outstanding bill for this one, it's got to be the same customer, obviously. So let's walk through this. The first one is going to be issuing a refund check. I'm not going to take it off of another outstanding bill. I'm just going to um, refund it. Only the refund checks can only be issued for vendor customers, which is a vendor set up from AR vendor, but pulled from the AR from the core vendors. So let's go to the credit grid. And I'm going to use OASBO because I know that they have, it was one of the vendors. And they have a remaining amount on their credit of $500. So if I click on that, choose it, I can refund the credit by clicking on refund credit. This pops up with the revenue account, the create a check. If I choose to, that's going to default the bank account and the vendor. And then I click create refund for that selected vendor. The refund has been created. The remaining amount is zero now. The AR module is zero for that vendor and all is good. Under the disbursements, you will now see that refund of $500 that the user can now go ahead and generate a print file for to sign the check number. So that's one way to like refund an overpayment in AR. You can also apply the credit to another outstanding bill. So let's go to let's see, what was I going to use? So the billing 1049, if I view that, it says, where is it? Total paid 1,500, but it was only billed for 1,000. The status is in a credit mode. So sorry. So looking at the 1050 and 1049, one's a credit, one's outstanding. So I want to apply that $500 from 1049 onto the bill of 1050. So if oh, that's the right one. No, it's not. If I take the outstanding bill and apply payment, I'm sorry, view that. So I'm going to view the outstanding bill to apply a payment. So I can click on here, or I can apply payment. If I click on this, the whole $500 is going to be applied to this. Is that 1050? Or I can manage that little icon. Let me pull up another one. The little icon down here. So these are my credits available. So what I did, click on this to manage all my credits and to specify what to apply. Then I click on here and it shows you the credits that are available. However, I picked one that has none available. I'm sorry for that. But normally, you can specify what you want to apply, click apply, and it'll be saved and documented. I swear I had an example in here, but I don't see the billing that I was going to use. So once this is the one that where we applied and paid, it then changes to the paid status. And then the other one, because we applied that credit, that one's still in. Okay, I did something wrong. So this is an outstanding bill. I can manage my credits. Oops. Remember, it's Friday the 13th. So that, sorry for that confusion. The PowerPoint I know has, and the documentation, because I believe that's where that came from. But this is how it walks you through. You click on that little button, you apply your credit, and it drills down so that you can apply the credit once that is checked. My example had different credits that I was able to select, and maybe that's what threw me off, but refer to the documentation and then you can see the remaining amount in credit where it's applied. This is the credit check that we did for the OASBO refund disbursement check. All right, so a few scenarios that we come across is how do I cancel an amount or a remaining balance on the accounts receivable billing? The vendor's not going to pay us, we just want to write it off. So, for instance, well, there are options. So the billing, if the billing has some payments posted, the billing can't be deleted. However, if you have a billing such as one that is outstanding and has nothing paid on it, you are able to delete it in an open period. So that's one way. They're never going to pay us. Delete the billing if it's in an open period and has no payments. Um, if it does have payments, the billing can't be deleted, but the balance still needs to be canceled. So I'm going to pull up an example. They're not going to pay the $5, so we're just going to write it off. When we view this, we can edit it and use this copy feature to create a new line on this billing in which we can update to be, oops, oh shoot, sorry. To be a negative amount. And you can update the description too, if you want. So now the remaining amount is 0. And the status is actually updated from outstanding to paid as well. But what if the billing has the wrong account or the wrong amount on it? Depends on if it has a payment. If the billing has no payments posted, so nothing's paid on this, you can delete it. If the billing has payments posted with a receipt posted, like under transaction receipt, then you're going to have to reverse the receipt first in order to open up the billing on the AR side. So let's take a look. Oh, shoot. So we'll use the 1051. So I want to edit this, the amount. So I'm going to have to first, oh, that's an outstanding one. That's the wrong. All right. So in order to change this, when it has a payment posted and a receipt, you can't edit it. So let's go to, does it give me the receipt here? Oops. So view the receipt, reverse it, the current date, and you can generate the reverse receipt. You see how that is total reversal of the amount that we wanted to update. So now you can delete that payment, which was 10,100. It becomes available to delete so that you can go has no receipt. Well, by reopening that, oh, sorry, I was under billing. Well, we should be able to delete that receipt, go to the billing, and now edit the billing for the amount. That's not the right one. That's where I'm getting confused. It was payment 1051. And I was thinking it was billing 1051. I apologize. So this is billing 1039. And we have this in our, this is not working for me, but we have the exact steps in the FAQs. what I did was pick the wrong PO, and I apologize for that not working. But let me go to the appendix to show you. Appendix FAQs, and then it's broken down by chapters, accounts receivable. So what I went through is, what if I entered the wrong account or amount on a billing and I've already applied a payment to it? So you created a payment and a receipt. Can I back it out? So what I tried to do is reverse the receipt, which was successful. The period must be open in order to reverse the receipt. I'm currently in open in December, so that worked. The payment in AR will no longer have a receipt transaction tied to it, so you should be able to delete the payment. That is what I was trying to do, and I showed you that it had no more receipt number listed. It just didn't work in my live demo. So by deleting that payment, this will reopen the billing and allow you to edit the billing to change the account, the amount, or whatever is available for the user to update. Then the payment that we tried to delete and pretended it deleted, then you reapply that payment to the corrected, edited billing. And then there's another question: how do I change an AR payment amount that was incorrect but posted with a receipt? So refer to these and the PowerPoint, and I stepped you through them with accurate screenshots of both of those. Any questions so far? Oh, I do have some. Let's see. Oh, great. Michelle, thank you. Regarding reports, you can find some under the report manager. Such as the AR billing detail, the AR billing summary, and the AR detailed report. So the AR billing detail is going to give you a detailed billing list. And then the summary is going to give you the summary list. So this is the first one, just to give you a visual. I probably, there we go. So there's the billings, billing 142, 145, such as. There is that, the AR billing summary. And the detail report. And the detail report is going to show you the billings and the payments for all types of the billings and invoices. Now, under the AR menu, there are two reports, essentially two. One of them is a customer statement, and this will give you a statement of all the outstanding balances per these choices that for their outstanding balances. So I'm going to choose this vendor in a PDF and print. So this one, you can see that there's two billings and one of them has a credit. I think I have another example already prepared. This one shows the charges for this vendor and a payment of 4 with the remaining balance. So where's my demo? You can choose it by ledger codes, by customers, by dates, and that's what you would get. So I showed you the payment and the credit. The other report under the accounts receivable menu is the accounts receivable report. This is a listing of all the accounts receivable as of a certain date, which is usually June 30th. And it can be customized by selecting and dragging and generating. I'm not sure what it's going to produce in our database, but I probably should have changed it to, but that is available as well. So, oh, the statement, I was going to show you this in the live, but this is a good picture. So this was the picture screenshot of the statement was showing a credit and a payment. If you go to the billing grid and have those fields on the grid, it also matches. So that was what I was showing on that slide. I did link our FAQs that we just reviewed for that example scenario. I clicked on that link where we were for the templates for the AR billing payment receipt, if you guys wanted to use that. The receipt chapter I linked here, which also can be found in the application under help. And I lost my PowerPoint. There we go. We had a newsletter article back in August 2023 that you can refer to as well if you want to about that accounts receivable report. And it's still applicable. It sorts by the different fund types. Any questions that haven't been answered yet? We do have a few Fridays with fiscal. That's all I had for AR. So if you think of a question as I'm finishing up, just let me know. We do have a couple final Fridays with fiscals, one of them being next week for USPS mass change definitions. And then January 3rd, we're going to start right off with our December release recaps for all the applications. So until then, I'll see you guys next year. And I hope you guys all have a nice holiday break and holidays. Thank you very much. And Merry Christmas to you all as well.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.